NBA Draft Guide 2022, the Top 10. A dive into the 10 best prospects in the 2022 NBA Draft. With the NCAA tournament officially wrapped, the top 10 have been released. 1. Chet Holmgren, Gonzaga. C7-0, 195 pounds, 19 years old. Per game, 14.1 points, 9.9 rebounds, 1.9 assists, 3.7 blocks, 0.8 steals, 60% FG, 39% 3P, 3.3 attempts. Per 40, 21.0 points, 14.7 rebounds, 2.8 assists, 5.4 blocks, 1.2 steals. A lanky 7-footer with innate handle and feel for the game, Holmgren's potential as a shot-blocking, extendable big man at the next level is worth the top pick alone. He's extremely comfortable in areas other big men struggle. Can score at all three levels, whether it be lob catching, three-point shooting, and anything in between. He has plenty of fluidity on the offensive end. Strengths: Holmgren's feel for the game at his size can't be understated. One of the few larger prospects with a tight handle, great vision, etc. The shot looks great and he has the numbers to back it up. Regardless of varying worries, he'll project to at least be a stretch shooter in the pros, reportedly very competitive. Weaknesses: not completely polished in some areas for a true 5. His thinner frame isn't necessarily a worry, but is somewhat limiting at the next level. Holmgren's fine around the rim, but could struggle with more physical defenders for the foreseeable future. He'll likely function as a stretch 4 early in his career. 2. Paolo Banchero, Duke. PF 6'10", 250 pounds, 19 years old. Per game, 17.2 points, 7.8 rebounds, 3.2 assists, 0.9 blocks, 1.1 steals, 47% FG, 34% 3P, 3.3 attempts. Per 40, 20.9 points, 9.5 rebounds, 3.9 assists, 1.1 blocks, 1.3 steals. Likely the most NBA-ready prospect in the top 5, at 6'10", 250 pounds, Banchero is a mismatch nightmare and will continue to be so at the next level. Incredible footwork and creation abilities highlight his offensive game, and should he ever unlock his potential on the other end of the court, could be a pestering defender. Banchero's game in isolation is to be feared. Strengths: Banchero's creation ability, using a combination of strength, agility, and feel, is good enough that even if his shot never comes, he'll be an NBA starter. Few prospects, or even current NBA heirs for that matter, have the ability he does to get to the rack. He has legitimately solid vision for his size, and enough feel on defense. Weaknesses: his shooting hasn't been consistent enough to outright make him the top selection. His handle has plenty of room to tighten up, although based on other attributes this seems fixable. His motor as a defender is likely his biggest question mark. He's passable enough, but isn't always locked in and can fall asleep off ball. 3. Jaden Ivey, Purdue. G6'4", 200 pounds, 20 years old. Per game, 17.3 points, 4.9 rebounds, 3.1 assists, 0.6 blocks, 0.9 steals, 46% FG, 35% 3P, 5.0 attempts. Per 40, 22.0 points, 6.2 rebounds, 3.9 assists, 0.7 blocks, 1.2 steals. The most electric player in college basketball, Ivey exudes star power. A shifty, 6'4" guard that can score at all three levels, Ivey has already drawn comparisons to some of the NBA's best. He's explosive, creative, and has fine enough decision-making to project as a number 1 or 2 on nearly any team near the bottom of the standings. Strengths: there's no timeline where Ivey isn't at least a good scorer in the NBA. He's as explosive around the rim as they come. His craftiness in the mid-range will get him good looks, and his shooting has steadily improved, and with a solid rotation it's hard to not see it sticking around. Blistering speed, but good at controlling it. Star-level shot-making. Weaknesses: Ivey is frequently unfocused on defense and doesn't project to be anything special on that end. Not overall inconsistent offensively, but certainly has his lulls and disappearances. He's very ball-dominant, to the point he could be an awkward fit on several roster configurations. 4. Jabari Smith Jr., Auburn. PF 6'10", 220 pounds, 18 years old. Per game, 16.9 points, 7.4 rebounds, 2.0 assists, 1.0 blocks, 1.1 steals, 42% FG, 42% 3P, 5.5 attempts. Per 40, 23.6 points, 10.3 rebounds, 2.8 assists, 1.4 blocks, 1.5 steals. A well-framed 6'10" sniper with some natural defensive instincts, Smith came onto the scene in a flurry. An elite shot maker with zero worry about his shooting ability headed into the next level. He's an above-average on-ball defender who has improved as the season progressed. At his worst, he'll be a well-functioning 3 and D player who can come up big offensively. Strengths: Smith's sniper-like instincts are highly sought after at any level of basketball. He's an attentive isolation defense, and his frame could help him become even more. Is fairly creative in getting his shots, transition threes, pull-ups, step-backs, even if it's not off the dribble. Weaknesses: Smith has little to no creativity with the ball in his hands. There are major questions surrounding his ability to score on ball in the half-court. He's been an unbelievable shot maker, but sometimes to his detriment, hitting lots of contested takes that likely won't translate over. He hasn't blown people away from inside the arc, and his passing leaves lots to be desired. Generally, his stardom levels seem low. 5. Jalen Duren, Memphis. C. 6'11", 250 pounds, 18 years old. Per game, 12.0 points, 8.1 rebounds, 1.3 assists, 2.1 blocks, 0.8 steals, 59% FG, 0% 3P. Per 40, 18.9 points, 12.9 rebounds, 2.0 assists, 3.3 blocks, 1.3 steals. A hyper-athletic, high-flying rim runner with acute defensive instincts, Duren is more than polished for an 18-year-old supposed to be finishing his senior year of high school. He's a force to be reckoned with in the paint, no matter what end of the court. He's a very natural ball player and likely has a bright future, despite being confined to roles. Strengths: one of the most physically imposing players in recent memory, Duren's size and frame will stand out even at the professional level. He's explosive, but fluid and controlled enough. Weaknesses: his ceiling is relatively unknown, making him a bit of a gamble. He's essentially a non-shooter, but has good enough numbers at the charity stripe to give hope. Despite his frame, Duren has struggled some with foul trouble, something that likely won't get better in the NBA. 6. Shaedon Sharpe, Kentucky. SG 6'6", 201 pounds, 18 years old. Per game, not applicable. Per 40, not applicable. A high-flying prospect whose mysticism could leave him almost anywhere in the upcoming draft, Sharpe is as intriguing as they come. One of the top-ranked prospects in his class, he hasn't seen the college court yet, but high school tape is promising enough that he could go within the top 5 in 2022. Strengths: even at the high school level, Sharpe has enough offensive moves in his bag to make him worthy of a top 10 pick. He's shifty, ultra-athletic and has a good shooting stroke. If he can function well in pick and roll, he'll be an elite 3-level scorer. He's long enough to disrupt on defense and will likely improve substantially in that area. Weaknesses: lack of play recently has left Sharpe's stock a bit of a question mark. Teams will see very little of his play beyond high school ball, and he's a player that could have really benefited from a next-level look. There's several questions about his offensive game that weren't answered during his college career, including his shot selection, decision-making, and defensive motor. 7. Keegan Murray, Iowa. PF 6'8", 215 pounds, 21 years old. Per game, 23.5 points. 8.7 rebounds, 1.5 assists, 1.9 blocks, 1.3 steals, 55% FG, 39% 3P, 4.7 attempts. Per 40, 29.5 points, 10.9 rebounds, 1.9 assists, 2.4 blocks, 1.6 steals. A long-bodied shotmaker with a knack for helping in other areas, Murray projects to be at the least a solid NBA starter. He's well built for today's NBA, and can plug into several systems off the get-go. There's close to no gaping holes in Murray's game, but he isn't as flashy as several names that will be floating near him in the draft. Strengths: Murray has a fairly high floor. He's excellent at finding his spot down low, and is a reliable and consistent shotmaker. He's made major improvements defensively, and stays very active on that end. Murray also tracks down rebounds well. Likely a long-time NBA starter. Weaknesses: Murray likely won't be elite at much at the next level, but could be above average at lots. He's a bit on the older side comparatively for this draft, and hasn't progressed much as a passer. The Iowa system has done a great job of disguising some prospects' flaws, and Murray could be the next benefactor of that. 8. Benedict Mathurin, Arizona. SG 6 to 7, 195 pounds, 19 years old. Per game, 17.7 points, 5.6 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 0.3 blocks, 1.0 steals, 45% FG, 36% 3P, 6.1 attempts. Per 40, 21.8 points, 6.9 rebounds, 3.1 assists, 0.3 blocks, 1.2 steals. A prototypical NBA-type wing with a knack for all kinds of scoring, Mathurin fits nicely on plenty of pro rosters. He led one of the best teams in basketball in scoring, and is an occasionally fiery defender. Consistency will be key in Mathurin's stock. Strengths: Mathurin is an expert shotmaker with an explosive streak. He's crafty enough to get to his spots, and has a mixed bag of tricks at all 3 levels. At 6'6", he's built and plays like several high-level pros. In the least, he'll be a well-functioning floor spacer. Weaknesses: wholly inconsistent on both ends of the floor, Mathurin is both a streaky scorer and defender. Despite having the physical tools to be a good defender, the effort and consistency is often not there. There are worries about the consistency of his handle, which could confine him professionally. 9. AJ Griffin, Duke. F6 to 6, 222 pounds, 18 years old. Per game, 10.4 points, 3.9 rebounds, 1.0 assists, 0.6 blocks, 0.5 steals, 49% FG, 44% 3P, 4.1 attempts. Per 40, 17.3 points, 6.5 rebounds, 1.6 assists, 0.9 blocks, 0.9 steals. An active, athletic sharpshooter, Griffin could reliably fill a variety of roles in the NBA. He's strong enough to score inside, and his outside shooting numbers have been downright gaudy. He can draw contact well and hit his free throws. He's missed plenty of basketball over the years, so the fact he was so competitive out the gate speaks volumes. Strengths: Griffin sees the game in slow motion. He isn't exceptionally fast, but it doesn't affect his variety of offensive moves, something lots of stars are good at. He's constantly active on offense. Griffin projects to be a good defender via his frame and strength. Weaknesses: Griffin doesn't quite have the fluidity and naturalness of some of the other scorers in the draft. His mechanics aren't top tier, and he's not an incredible separator. His shot form isn't necessarily bad, but despite his shooting numbers, there's something there that gives pause. There's much to be desired on defense in general. 10. Jeremy Sochan, Baylor. F6 to 9, 230 pounds, 18 years old. Per game, 9.2 points, 6.4 rebounds, 1.8 assists, 0.7 blocks, 1.3 steals, 47% FG, 30% 3P, 2.7 attempts. Per 40, 14.7 points, 10.1 rebounds, 2.8 assists, 1.1 blocks, 2.0 steals. An extremely versatile defender whose offensive skills are intriguing enough, Sochan could be worth the risk in this draft. Strengths: should be able to legitimately defend all 5 positions at some point in his professional career. He can smother, pester, and use his strength to his advantage. His offensive numbers aren't damning, and he's fairly fluid and useful out of the pick and roll. He's high energy and a great contributor night in and night out. Very solid passer for his size. Weaknesses: his shooting numbers aren't there, and his shot isn't a thing of beauty. It's slow and awkward, and teams have and will certainly dare him to shoot. He's not as athletic as someone of his archetype should be, and is a bit overzealous when defending sometimes. He lacks some polish on many areas of his game, and is, in short, a project. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked this video, please subscribe our channel.